I bet you've heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, you've probably seen it on a bookshelf somewhere. It's that legendary book that completely flipped the script on how millions of people think about money. But what if the story that launched this whole financial empire isn't exactly what it seems? Today, we're going to dig in and investigate the real story behind the story.
Okay, so before we get into the controversy, you really have to understand just how massive this book's influence is. We're talking more than 32 million copies sold. It's been translated into over 51 languages. And get this, it spent 6 years on the New York Times bestseller list. This wasn't just some book, It was a full-blown cultural phenomenon.
And this quote, "This is the big hook. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them." It's such a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful, right? The whole concept was stop trading your time for a paycheck and start making your money work for you. For so many people, this was a total game changer, a way out of the so-called rat race.
But here's the big question, the one that kind of hangs over this whole thing. What if that foundational story, the tale of the two dads that started it all, what if it's got some pretty serious cracks in it? All right, so before we start poking holes in the story, let's just take a minute to break down the core ideas that made this book such a global sensation. I mean, what was it about this message that resonated with millions and millions of people? So the whole book really boils down to this powerful comparison. On one hand, you have Poor Dad, who was his actual father, and his advice was what we've all heard, right? Study hard, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, the safe path. But then you have Rich Dad, his best friend's father, and he taught a totally different lesson. Be bold, learn to take calculated risks, and focus on building real wealth, not just earning a salary. And one of Kiyosaki's most famous lessons, his first rule, just cuts right through all the confusing financial jargon. It's this: an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. It sounds so simple, but it's a really profound idea. The whole key to getting rich, he says, is to just keep buying assets. And this is where he really shakes things up for a lot of people. The core message is that most of us spend our lives buying liabilities that we think are assets, like your family home or your car. He argues that to truly escape the rat race, you have to shift your focus entirely to building up that asset column until the money flowing in from your assets is more than enough to cover all your expenses.
It's a really powerful message, you can't deny that. But this is where our investigation takes a sharp turn. Is the story that delivered this advice actually true? And, the biggest question of all, was Rich Dad even a real person?
And that brings us to what might be the biggest crack in the whole story. Who exactly is Rich Dad? I mean, the entire book, this whole philosophy, is built on the wisdom of this one guy. So, was he real?
So check this out. When a journalist really pushed him on who Rich Dad was, Kiyosaki's response was, "Why don't you treat Rich Dad like Harry Potter?" Yeah, you can imagine what that did. It just poured gasoline on the fire of speculation. Was he basically admitting that his legendary mentor was a complete work of fiction?
And the mystery just gets deeper when you start digging. You've got critics, like this guy John T. Reed, who are absolutely convinced Rich Dad was just made up. But then you have the family of a Hawaiian hotel owner, a man named Richard Kimmy, who say that he was the inspiration. And Kiyosaki himself, he's always been super vague about it, which honestly just adds to the whole puzzle. And this timeline right here really shows you why people are so skeptical. In 1992, in one of his first books, he calls his actual dad, Poor Dad, the best teacher he ever had. Okay, but then just 5 years later, in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he's emphatic. Rich Dad was his best teacher. Fast forward to 2006, and in a column for Yahoo, he says the inventor Buckminster Fuller was his best teacher. It's this kind of inconsistency that makes a lot of people raise an eyebrow and question the whole story. Okay, so the backstory is murky, to say the least. But you might be thinking, does that even matter if the advice is good? Fair question. So let's shift gears and take a hard look at the specific financial advice in the book, because, well, a lot of it is pretty controversial.
Right, so it's not just the story that's under fire. Critics have also taken a huge aim at the specific advice in the book. And they're not just saying it's flawed, they're saying some of it is downright dangerous.
And here's a list of some of the most alarming bits. I mean, critics point to passages where Kiyosaki seems to be advocating for things like insider trading, saying that is what friends are for.
He talks about questionable tax strategies. He pushes really risky stuff like penny stocks on beginners. And he even suggests joining multi-level marketing companies to learn how to sell, companies that many people see as predatory. And his advice? If you're going to go broke big. Yikes.
Now, one of Kiyosaki's big things is that he kind of dismisses formal education. He famously said, college is for suckers. But if you look at the actual data, like this from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it shows a super clear direct link. The more education you get, the more money you're likely to make. It's a straight-up contradiction to one of his core arguments.
Okay, so we have a questionable story and some pretty controversial advice. Let's dig into the aftermath now. What are the real-world financial consequences that have been linked to the Rich Dad brand and to Kiyosaki himself?
Well, it starts with this number, $23.7 million. That's how much a court ordered one of Kiyosaki's main companies to pay a former partner who had been promoting his seminars. It was a huge judgment, and it kicked off a pretty dramatic chain of events.
And this is where things get really, really weird. Right after that judgment came down, the company filed for bankruptcy. Now get this, in the 3 years prior, they had taken in over $45 million in royalties. But when they filed for bankruptcy, they claimed to have less than $2 million in assets. It leaves you wondering, where on earth did all that money go?
And the weird discrepancies don't stop there. Take his personal wealth. Publicly, he's claimed his net worth is somewhere between $50 and $100 million. But his own co-author, Sharon Lechter, testified in court that he'd only made about $9 million. I mean, that's a gigantic gap between what he's telling the public and what's being said under oath.
So, how does Kiyosaki explain all this? Well, he says it's all part of the strategy. His defense is that the rich play by a different set of rules. As he puts it, they control everything, but own nothing. So from his point of view, that bankruptcy wasn't a failure. It was a smart financial move.
And all of this brings us to one last really tough question. We have a story with some major holes. We have advice that's been called dangerous, and we have some pretty murky business dealings. But does all that completely cancel out the core message? I mean, can a flawed messenger still have a valuable point about financial literacy? Maybe the biggest takeaway is this. It's okay to be inspired by the big ideas, but you have to, always, do your own homework. What you do with that information, well, that's up to you.